Sometimes when you actually hold positional power, like being the mayor, like holding an elective office, people are going to hate you. They're going to
Yeah.
be angry at what your position stands for and how people have abused governmental power. Let's just be very honest about that for centuries.
Yeah.
And so part of how you actually listen to voices of protest and pain, which is your job as a leader, is to not take the criticism personally. It's not usually about you as a human being. It's really about the power that you hold and how that power has been abused. So that has really helped me. And then just, we say at Emerge that Emerge California recruits women who don't want to be someone, they want to do something.
I love
Like, it's
that.
not about the title. It's not about being an elected official. It's about what you are doing every day. And while I will not lie, like being the mayor of Oakland is hard, it is full of heartbreak. Your job is to hold the trauma and pain of a city, and Oakland has much more than its fair share. But it's also to inspire, it's to give people hope, it's to tell them that they matter, it's to
Yeah.
show them that when they show up and voice their dreams and desires, and sometimes even demands, that
Yeah.
it actually does make change. And that is just such a great privilege.
How did you hold the difference between your authority as mayor, which I can imagine it sounds like you're all powerful, but I imagine you don't have all the authority and had to partner with a lot of other people, but authority and leadership, like really your leadership has such farther reaching impacts even than your authority.
Well, I could talk about two different things. One, let me give you my pitch for why I think local government is the perfect place for leadership. In local government, you fly high enough, you're at an altitude where what you do can actually change the world. I had the incredible opportunities to be part of the American delegation to the climate summit in Egypt recently, and before that in Paris. I was a delegate to Habitat 3 in Quito, Ecuador, because people recognize that cities are the centers of innovation, that they are experimenting, that they are trying things, that they are going to be the proofs of concept for the different policies that need to then go to the state and then the federal level. And so what we do at the city level can change the world. And frankly, it is changing the world around things like climate change. And you are low enough to the ground that it is intimate, it is
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
You know the people that your policies are affecting. And that's why I also think local leaders are effective policymakers, because they are closest to the people. They are closest to the ground. Their policy ideas are coming out of visceral experiences in community. So I encourage everyone to consider local politics. I know Congress, federal leadership sounds very exciting, but I think local is where the action is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think about at a federal level, it seems so slow as molasses. I think I would lose my mind because I like to get stuff done.
Julie,
And
I always say, like, when it comes to mayors, we don't have time for partisan gridlock. Like,
yeah,
we all belong to one political party. It is the party of get shit done.
yeah,
That's what I say.
exactly. Well, so you got so much done in your time as mayor. You talked a little bit about your pivot of your frame, but how do you really think about your own leadership? How do you lead? What are your pillars of always testing yourself against?
I had lots of moments where I had to make really hard decisions in a short amount of time. And I would say there are two things that I did. One, I kept a small group around me that did not always think the same way I thought, and who felt the freedom to disagree with me. That is part of loyalty, is actually disagreeing with your leader maybe not publicly, maybe
Yes,
not in front of a big
hopefully
group of
not.
people,
Yes.
but in that private moment where you are making the decision, you need voices
Yeah.
of other perspectives, voices of disagreement. That is important. And then the second thing, I always had these two framing questions, and I would run every decision through these two questions. One, what is in the best long-term interest of Oakland? Not what is most comfortable for me personally, not what will feel comfortable in the short term, but always thinking about the long term. I am born and raised in this city. I plan to die in this city. My parents are aging here. My kids are growing up here. And I feel like when I became mayor, I inherited a lot of cans that got kicked down the road. And I feel like they bonked me right in my forehead. And I swore I wouldn't do that to future leaders. The second question that I asked myself, and I think most leaders will give you some version of this, is how does this serve my values?
Mhm.
For me, values of integrity, of transparency, and equity.
Yeah.
Those were my leading values. And I'd ask, how do these serve those values? And values-based decision making is the only kind of decision making that you should do as a leader.
Well, I have to tell you in particular, I'm married to an immigrant. And when I would just love to hear more about the Trump ICE announcement and your warning as mayor to resist extremism. Tell me a little bit about how that happened. Was there anybody there whispering and saying, oh, I don't know that this is right? Like, how did you, that took a lot of courage.
It was a really interesting discussion. It was one of those days where, I had gotten this information. I actually had told the head of Centro Legal de la Raza, their legal defense organization. They were running our rapid defense for ICE actions. I had told him as soon as I kind of heard this information, he had not shared it with anyone. And he actually was against my sharing it at all. And so I had a quick phone call, like by now, like my information was, this is happening tomorrow. So it really was down to the wire. I had to make this decision like that minute. And so I put him on the phone. I knew he was against it. But I put someone from the church-based, the PICO organization here, Emma Paulino, who I've worked with for a long time, who's a huge advocate for immigrants in Oakland. She brought on a faith leader from the Catholic Church, and we debated it. And the head of Centro, was completely opposed. He felt like I would be panicking people, that it was torturing an already vulnerable population. I mean, he had very compelling and strong arguments. But then the priest, it's always hard when there's a priest involved.
Eternal damnation,
Basically said, how could you live with yourself if you learned that you could have prevented one family from being torn apart? And Julie, I thought of two people. I thought of Maria Mendoza Sanchez, who after 20 years of legally trying to get citizenship, not, hiding or trying to break the system or hide from it, she'd become a nurse at our public hospital, treating cancer patients. Her husband drove a truck. They had bought a house. They had put their kids through school. They had kids, all their kids of age were in college. Like, these are
perfect
good
family.
citizens.
Yeah.
You want these people in your community. And the Trump administration had deported her and her husband with these poor kids left to fend for themselves in the country they were born in. So they were citizens.
Yeah.
One of the oldest was DACA, who was just completely just traumatized. And then the other person I thought of was another DACA recipient who had actually worked for me. And I remember seeing her the day that it was official that Donald Trump had won the election. And I said to her, oh my God, I am so sorry. This must be so terrifying for you and your family. And she said to me, no, Mayor, we've always lived in fear. This is no different. Just everybody now knows about it. And to think about her and her strength and resilience, and to that's what helped me reject this idea that people can't take this information,
Right,
that it
right.
will traumatize them. It's like, no, they're already traumatized. How disrespectful to think they can't handle the truth.